All right. How's everybody doing today so far? You're good? Wonderful, wonderful. So before we get started in talking about SRE Technologies, Inc., we want to talk about a great opportunity that the wonderful partners at Infinium made happen for you here today. And that's an ability for each and every single one of you to get your sphere of influence spread out even more. As was mentioned just briefly, in my years serving as the president of the National Association of Mortgage Brokers, meeting with members of Congress, going throughout the industry, meeting with my clients, there really was a disconnect. We have great individuals, we have great companies in our industry, but they don't have the reach necessary in order to get their product out, right? I mean, who here thinks you have the absolute best sphere of influence and you can reach every single person that you ever want to? Okay, we have one in the back for everybody watching right now. We have one person that says they're doing fantastic. For those of you who are not as amazing as the person in the back there, we have weekly real estate news. Now, if you go there, the website's really easy. It's wrenews.com. And as you can see up here, we have special editions. We go through, we talk about it. But the big thing I want to talk about is the fact that 1.2 million plus real estate professionals subscribe to the newsletter and go to the website. 1.2 million. Now, when we say plus, it's actually substantially higher than that. If you want to do an email blast out there, there is special pricing. Talk to anybody at Infinium and they can help you take advantage of this in order to blast out to that entire database. You can do a custom email blast where it just talks about your company. But on top of that as well, if you'd like to send it out to individual states. In fact, there's a gentleman here earlier that has a great company, and they're in 8 states right now. Maybe they don't want to advertise nationwide. They only want to hit those 8 states. You can do that right here as well. You have your different leaderboards, monsters, your Monster Square ability to do that. But on top of that, one thing that's absolutely fantastic are the advertorials, where you're able to get in there. Now, who here knows what an advertorial is? I never want to assume. That's the worst thing I can possibly do. Okay, so you know what an advertorial is. But for everybody else in the room, it's not an article you're writing, which is disinterested third party, right? It's not an ad where you sit there and you do this fun little photo of yourself and talk about, hey, come to us today. What it is, it's an article written like an ad, where you talk about whatever subject you want to, and then it talks about why your company is amazing. Has anybody ever seen these out there? You're reading this article and you're like, wait a second. They must be the best company in the world, right? They are the only ones who actually understand what's going on. And then you look really close and it says sponsored, right? That's what an advertorial is. These advertorials go out once again to our 1.2 million plus database. This is something that's absolutely fantastic for you if you need help writing press releases, if you need help getting out there and creating the design. All of this is provided for you as part of that cost. And once again, please talk to the wonderful people here at Infinium, whether it be the Internet 2.0, the Money 2.0, the healthcare, whatever it may be. If you want to get in front of the real estate professionals that affect you and your business and help you increase your consumers, make sure to go visit that. Talk with anybody here. They can take care of it. And once again, the website is wrenews.com. Now, I love having multiple conferences at the same time. They lent us this magic stuff. I call it magic because technology just blows my mind, okay? Where when I take my hands and I swoosh them, Nick in the back, he has this latest technology as well. We're going to play a video and step into the next part, which is SRE Technologies, Inc. So let's see if it works. Okay, it's here embedded in my wrist, and I do this, and we should see a video. Technology takes a second sometimes. There we go. Perfect.
A movement happen, start to finish, in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons from it. First, of course, you know, a leader needs the guts to stand out and be ridiculed. But what he's doing is so easy to follow. So here's his first follower with a crucial role. He's going to show everyone else how to follow. Now notice that the leader embraces him as an equal. So now it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Now there he is calling to his friends. Now, if you notice that the first follower is actually an underestimated form of leadership in itself. It takes guts to stand out like that. The first follower is what transforms a lone nut into a leader. And here comes a second follower. Now it's not a lone nut, it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd, and a crowd is news. So a movement must be public. It's important to show not just the leader, but the followers, because you find that new followers emulate the followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, and immediately after, 3 more people. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point. Now we've got a movement. So notice that as more people join in, it's less risky. So those that were sitting on the fence before now have no reason not to. They won't stand out. They won't be ridiculed, but they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. So, over the next minute, you'll see all of the those that prefer to stick with the crowd, because eventually they would be ridiculed for not joining in. And that's how you make a movement. But let's recap some lessons from this. So, first, if you are the type, like the shirtless dancing guy, that is standing alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals. So it's clearly about the movement, not you. Okay, but we might have missed the real lesson here. The biggest lesson, if you noticed, did you catch it? Is that leadership is over-glorified. That yes, it was the shirtless guy was first, and he'll get all the credit, but it was really the first follower that transformed the lone nut into a leader. So as we're told that we should all be leaders, that would be really ineffective. If you really care about starting a movement, have the courage to follow and show others how to follow. And when you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first one to stand up and join in. And what a perfect place to do that, Ted. Thanks.
Don't you guys love that? That lone nut theory. So what we're going to talk about today, I may be that guy up here dancing all by myself, okay? And I love that. I have no problem being the only one up there, because I know eventually I'm going to find someone in this crowd, I'm going to find someone throughout the U.S. or globally that will join what we are doing. And that person is equally as important, or as he said in his talk, sometimes even more important than the person starting the movement. Because it takes guts, it takes courage, and it takes the ability to look beyond what's currently being done. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the emergence of a globally connected online real estate marketplace. That's a lot to say, isn't it? Right? Try saying that 10 times fast. Now, on today's agenda, we have a few things we're going to talk about. The rise of e-commerce, the rise of the global marketplace, the emergence of a global online real estate marketplace, the evolving U.S. real estate industry, and last but not least, the opportunity for global investors. Now, let's backtrack a little bit, because I've often learned in my life, nobody really cares about what you're talking about unless they know who you are. So, hello, I'm John. As I tell everybody out there, my name's actually John Glenn Stevens, because that is my brand. If you go to the website, johngstevens.com. If you look up almost any email out there, John G. Stevens at MSN, John G. Stevens at iCloud, John G. Stevens at SRE.com, right? Because you need to make sure that your brand is something that people recognize you at. If you go to social media, same thing. In fact, I hope each and every single one of you, while you're here, you're taking pictures. I know that's something probably your children do, but you should be taking photos and sharing it on social media, because how else are your consumers going to know that you are involved in becoming better educated and understanding new items that are coming out, emerging not only locally but globally as well. So please, unlike every other speaker you're going to hear today, take out your phones, okay? Let people know what you're doing. Socialize, social media, right? So everybody here knows right now, not just in the U.S., but globally, home prices are rising. Okay, we've heard about the mass exodus out of California. In fact, I saw a very, very interesting and rather cool exodus graph that's being shared by real estate agents nationwide. And it shows all the dots leaving California and where they're going to. Anybody seen that recently? Okay, isn't that amazing to actually watch that? And yet when you look at the actual numbers of all those people leaving versus how many actually left the state of California, it's right on trend with normal growth from a state into another state. The biggest difference is a lot of these people are leaving from major metropolitan into rural areas. And so people are seeing this, and they're saying, wait a second, my farm is no longer a farm because there's 20 Teslas parked out front now, right? Instead of the tractor and the truck. I live in Utah. Yes, I love Utah. Our main office is in Honolulu. So I tell everybody, I leave heaven to go work in paradise. and then I come back home to heaven because I love it. In fact, this morning it snowed a couple inches. So here I am in sunny Las Vegas. And my poor wife, she's out there shoveling snow with the kids. And so I apologize to her in advance for that. Now, the value of these assets, they keep rising. And why are they rising? Supply and demand, right? You have first-time home buyers who can no longer buy a first-time home because there aren't enough of the second homes being built. The executives, the people in this room, have run out of the executive homes to buy, so what are they buying? The second homes and the first-time homes, right? You have Playa del Rey, California, $885 a square foot, okay? For the first time in history, and you guys are probably going to know based on the way I asked this question, the median value, I want you guys to yell out which you think is the highest median value of homes from these three areas. 1, Alpine, Utah. 2, San Francisco, California. 3, Honolulu, Hawaii. Wild guess? What's that? Okay, but which one do you think is actually the highest median price? Alpine, Utah, Honolulu, Hawaii, or San Francisco, California? Okay, normally you'd be right. You live in Alpine, so you know exactly. I live in Highland. Okay? Whoever would have thought that? You live in Alpine. Would you ever have thought that your median value would be higher than San Francisco or Honolulu? No, but I just bought a house a year ago. Okay. Okay. I love Alpine, by the way. Beautiful area. So he is actually my neighbor. I don't know him, but city-wise, I'm in Highland. And he's in Alpine. I didn't know that. We did not stage this. I'll pay you the $20 afterwards, right? So, but that's what's happening is all of these assets are going up in value because there aren't enough. The millennials are buying at a rate that no one anticipated. They're going out and saying, you know what? I've had enough of renting. I want my little slice. I want to get in there. I want to find that home. And so now they're paying more money. I met with an individual from the internet conference from Austin. Did you know that the average home in Austin is selling for $100,000 over asking? $100,000 over asking. At what point do they think we're asking too little, right? So the mortgage marketplace is shifting to more rural. People out there, they want to invest, and so they're going in. In fact, I heard from another person here at this conference. Don't you love this conference? Meeting with people and hearing all the neat things they're talking about. Did you know New Zealand, there are so many foreigners coming in and buying that the locals in New Zealand can't buy a home because of foreign investors. Canada just announced last week that they are looking to pass a bill to ban foreigners from buying real estate in Canada. Canada, with their endless kilometers of open land, they're looking at banning foreigners from being able to purchase any real estate. This is a major worldwide problem. But as all of you in this room know, any problem equals opportunity. Moving forward, you can see the median home price as we go through from 1996 all the way up here into 2020. We had that brief little increase back in 07 and 08. But isn't it interesting that over the course of the time, the average growth is steady? So as real estate investors yourselves, as people involved with money, you understand that real estate, my dad taught me this back when I was asking, and I'm one of those weird kids. When I was a little boy, I went up to him, he says, Dad, what should I do for a living? And unlike other dads, he didn't tell me what to do. What he did was give me some of the best advice I ever had. He says, find something people can't live without, and then move forward with it. And so I went out and I looked, talked with a couple different people, and I had a debate coach. And his dad, his job back then in the 90s was selling dirt to Asia. They dug up dirt here in the U.S. and shipped it out there. And I said, why in the world does he do that? And this guy made a lot of money. It's because that's the one thing you can't make more of. And everybody in this room understands that, right? You can build up, you can build out, but once the dirt is gone, the dirt is gone. There's no more ability to create more dirt. You can take dirt from Nevada and increase an island, right? But you can't create more dirt. So that's when I decided I'm going to get into real estate, because whether or not interest rates are 18% or 1.55%, people need to buy a home. Right now, we are seeing here with the median home value, the highest concentration of wealth ever in the history of the United States in home value. Have you guys read that? Raise your hands. If you can't tell, I like it when people are interactive, right? It makes it so much more enjoyable to be here and to speak. The rising value of these assets, once again, you can see it's staggering. And yet people are not taking the value out of their homes. And why aren't they? Interest rates are rising. I had a person call me this morning, John, I'm so mad. Okay. Have you seen what rates are today? They're over 5%. On my investment property, I was just told 6%. I said, those are fantastic rates. And he says, what do you mean? I said, what rate do you want? Well, I want to go back to 2.37. Well, you can't. Today's rates are the best you can get. So you can either be unhappy, miss out on the deal you want to buy, because you don't want to pay 6%, and guess what? Later on this year, the Fed will raise those rates 5 more times, right? Or you can choose to be happy, take advantage of what you have available today, and move forward. And that's the problem with our economy right now. Everybody is so hyper-focused on what used to be. Let's look at the opportunity, right? Let's look at what exists and what we can do moving forward. Originations went up. Anybody here read from the MBA? Nobody. So Mortgage Bankers Association announced a 65% decrease in refinance this year is what they're expecting. 65% decrease in business. Bless you. However, the great news is 9% increase in purchase. So if you were purchase driven, which every single one of you are professionals, so you should have been, then you're going to be fine. If you built your business strictly off refinances, make a shift. Pivot, right? The founder of my company often says, listen, whatever we do in this company, keep one foot planted and pivot, because it's always changing. That's the one constant. Existing home sales right now, one of the biggest problems, what does everybody know? There aren't enough homes being built, right? I heard from a news source the other day and I chuckled. John, the bubble is here. This is going to be worse than the previous one. That was a great recession. This will be greater. I said, that's very interesting. I said, but your facts are wrong. Well, what do you mean? I said, back then what happened? You had this many buyers and this amount of product. Today, what do you have? This many buyers and this amount of product, right? Very, very simple math. If there are more buyers than there is product, what happens to the product? Gets gobbled up fast, right? Supply and demand. Now, I know everybody in this room fully understands that, so I'm not going to go too much into that. New home sales, same thing. Builders are wary from the Great Recession. Anybody here, by show of hands, seen a builder that actually went out and is starting to increase the amount they're building compared to before the Great Recession? Or are they pretty steady? So a little bit more, okay, perfect. The ones that I've talked with, they're still wary. They're believing the news that there's a bubble happening. Yes, there's always a bubble happening, but it's not bursting. Things are good. Interest rates are rising, not because times are bad, but because that's good for our economy. Everybody in this room understands that. Rates could not sustain our economy at 2%. Rates have to go up. That is a sign of a healthy and thriving economy. So comparing our purchase to refi mortgages, they're significantly different, right? Refi is sold on a rate and term over now. Purchase is much more complex. We've talked about that. There's more product options, more investors, fixed timelines, and anxious borrowers. I did a news segment in San Diego, and the interviewer talked about, John, my best friend, they were crying when they finally received the acceptance on their offer. What can you tell all of our borrowers watching today? And I chuckled and I says, don't get overly attached to any home. Because what happens when you're overly attached to something? You're going to increase your offer price, right? And then those guys in the corner, they're offered $10,000 more because they're doing great. So I'm going to offer $15,000 more than them. I will win, right? Aren't we all competitive? Because I've already pictured where my Tesla will park. I've already pictured where my children will have their swing set. Next thing I know, I'm buying a house with no yard, no garage, and I'm so excited because I won. And then you think, what did I just do? Right? So my advice was don't get too emotionally attached. There are always great deals. Product will become available. Everybody remember when the first flat screen TV came out? How many thousands of dollars was it? Now for what, $290 you can buy a 65-inch on Amazon? Product increases, right? Supply and demand. So all U.S. buyers, they go first to the internet to search. We know this now, right? The internet, we've heard of that. It's kind of new, exciting. You know, no longer playing Minesweeper on our computers. Now we're going to the internet and watching TikTok, right? 90% of millennials will buy a home sight unseen. Hear that one more time. Millennials, who are becoming the highest contingency of purchasers in our market, 90% of them will buy a home sight unseen. When my parents moved from Germany back over here, all the kids, we moved out here, went to college, got married. And then they moved out. I remember they bought a home up on the bench there above Weber State University. They'd never seen it. We thought they were crazy. How could you buy a home without looking at it and going through the process? Right? My father-in-law, what does he do? Kicks the baseboards. And then you got to look at the ceiling a little bit, right? Because you can't buy a home without looking at the ceiling. Millennials don't believe that. What do they think? Okay, this is good. I've done my research online, and I'm going to be able to go through. I've already found the schools. I've done my research on the crime. I've done my research on my neighbors. Everything there. They are more educated about buying a home than they've ever been in their lives. They're more tech savvy. We can show homes virtually. I love these new cameras that go around, right? And you stick it in the middle, and then you duck out of the room, and it takes that 3D picture. I can tour any home I want to buy nowadays that way, right? And if you ever want to see something fun, go to YouTube and look up the different, the car from Google. You guys ever look those up? The funny pictures they catch as they drive around. That'll entertain you if you can't sleep one night. And then we can close loans electronically from anywhere. There's a great article yesterday that was shared. Anybody familiar, anybody in the notary world? Notaries in the room? Okay, have you heard of Ron? Anybody? And I'm not talking, Ron and Harry and Hermione. Remote online notary. Who here has used that in the past, by show of hands? Okay, 1, 2, perfect. For those of you who have not, let me introduce you to 2019. Remote online notary. You can close from anywhere in the world. The escrow officer gets online and everything is done like Zoom. So gone are the days where, my borrower's deploying, right? We're traveling and there's no way I can do anything. Now you can, remote online notary. So the transaction is complex, right? They still need support. Real estate agents aren't going anywhere. Despite what the news says, they're not going anywhere. Their roles will change. Loan originators' roles will change. Title and escrow will change. They have to involve, okay? Loan officers aren't going anywhere. But where are you going to find it? When you have 90% of millennials who will do it in a sight unseen, they're going through, here's that problem, but also the opportunity that we at SRE.com see. Buyers are already on the internet. That's what they're doing, okay? If we meet them there, we can not only win their business, but we will create clients for life. Okay, what do we like to do when we're shopping online? We like to do it all ourselves until what? I can't figure it out. And then I want to call somebody. And I want them to help me. And then I want them to get off the phone or stop texting me, and I'll keep doing it the rest of myself. It's all about convenience at this point, right? They want a community for reviews. Amazon changed the way people do business. Who here buys almost everything through Amazon, unfortunately? Come Christmas, I have to have 2 recycling bins because of all the Amazon boxes. It's horrible. It's horribly awesome. I love what they created there. They saw an opportunity, they created a problem, and then created the solution for their own problem, right? So as industry professionals, we always talk about use someone local, right? How local are you if you're on social media? I remember one time I was working Saturday morning, I had on my boots, I had on my baseball cap, and there was a guy from Spanish Fork, Utah. And he comes in, and I am looking grubby and dirty. I have my family with me. And he yells out, "John!" And I look around, who in the world? He goes, "John Stevens, we've never met, but I follow you on Facebook. I know you." Because we use social media that way. They like you, they love you, they want to use you, right? The key to social media is being social. So here's someone who I've never met before in my life physically, felt like I was a local to him. That goes for other states as well. That goes globally. People, they get to know you. And that barrier of they don't physically with you right like this, they get to know you because they're through there. So the right partnerships, they can be formed online. Remote buyers, they want to find those trusted advisors, and buyers want to keep the process online like we talked about. So this online portal we're talking about, SRE.com, it allows for focus of marketing efforts. It makes it easy for real estate professionals to become community advocates, and it opens doors to tighter partnerships. Because once again, isn't that what it's all about? 9% increase in purchase this year, 65% decrease in refinance. And consumers want to be able to go on, they want to see these reviews. Word of mouth, it flows easier, right? Everybody knows that. Bad review will sink you online. There are people who think because they do Yelp reviews that they're celebrities, right? And yet to that business, they are. They can't afford the negative comments. Reviews are easier to find because they're centralized. Once again, think Amazon. It drives professionals to one arena to compete, which consumers have been trained to believe is their best interest. Once again, Amazon, right? Now, in order to build this, there's always going to be some issues. Compliance, right? Anytime you change anything, what happens? People combat it. Attracting the best professionals is important. Teaching consumers to visit the portal will take time and significant investment. We're already dealing with every single one of these problems. At SRE.com, we have created that online portal. We have heavily invested to the tune this year of $27 million in marketing. Next year, we're looking minimum $500 million. If you go on there, you see that we have a database of over 32,000 professionals that have been attracted to this. If you scroll down through the page, you'll see that it's a multi-solution platform, where first and foremost, Amazon started with books. We're starting with mortgage. We're already talking with real estate brokers. We're talking with title companies. We're talking with contractors. We're talking with cell phone providers and furniture companies. Because at the end of the day, consumers want to go to one place where they can get everything done for them. They want to deal with a professional. The professionals who are part of our system, we call them SRE professional experts. Ooh, is a designation. An SPE. This is how we change the global industry. This is what is required of each and every single one of you. There will be hurdles. There will be times, right, with compliance. But think of it this way. The best thing I ever tell everybody, paperclip. Everybody uses a paperclip, right? Except before it was invented. Isn't that interesting to think about? The paperclip had to be invented for it to be used. I don't know what people used before that, a rock? And I'm sure people thought it, oh, this new fancy thing, paperclip. Look, I can't believe they think this will work. Every time you try to evolve, you try to change, you try to better our industry, there will be those who understand it and grasp it, and they're going to join the dance. Be that first person who comes up and joins and helps lead. Because as we saw in the video originally, there will come that point where the wave starts to crest, right? And then everybody wants to be a part of it. And everybody's having fun. But the people who start at the beginning, who are part of that legacy-changing event, they're the ones who will benefit the most. So I'm going to turn over the time to some quick questions if you have any. But thank you first and foremost to everybody here today. And thank you to the conference for having me out to speak. Yes, in the back.
Morning. With the housing crisis, how much do you feel, or how big of the impact do you feel on the Airbnbs, the corporations that are buying up residential houses purely for investment? How is that impacting the market?
So if you talk to a politician, it's horrible, right? But if you look at the stats, it's such a small percentage that it is not impacting as much as the news would want you to believe. But it's a very easy target for people to go in and blame those horrible people with money, right, who are buying these homes and trying to expand. It's a form of business in the United States. The ability to go in and make life better for your family, right? We don't know if this buyer is a multi-billionaire or if there's someone who's saved up finally enough money to put it down, and they're hoping they can get enough rent to cover the cost. And so be very, very wary what you read in the news. The percentage right now of investors coming in and buying up it's not abnormal by any means. And so I don't see it making that large of an impact with it. Over here.
To that end also, what about Zillow? I've heard about them buying up housing in areas.
Yes, and Zillow, they tried. And, you know, I always joke, anybody here work for Zillow? Did you know the A in Zillow stands for accuracy? Wait for it. Everybody's thinking, wait, Zillow, Z-I-L, right? So with Zillow, I mean, that's part of the problem is they went through and they tried doing this form, but they didn't have the right people in place, in my opinion, to be able to actually make that heavy of a dent in the market. So, yes.
Great presentation, John. I really enjoyed it. Now, you mentioned very well about the investors seen in New Zealand and Canada. Do you see similar paradigm shift in the United States with the foreign investors wanting to come into the real estate market, especially having a very robust economy at the moment, low unemployment rates? Do you see any regulators coming in and putting similar boundaries on foreign investors that could change the landscape of real estate here in the U.S.?
Excellent question. When I was president of the National Association of Mortgage Brokers, dealt with our industry and with lawmakers here in the United States, there in D.C. And part of that is I was able to meet with the other English-speaking loan origination. So we had England's part of it, Canada part of it, the international, right? We had Australia, New Zealand part of it. And one thing I learned in working with my counterparts in those other countries is they were hyper aware that any law in the United States eventually becomes real estate law in those countries. And what they taught me, and I was not aware of this, and I'll be the first to admit, the laws in those countries become laws in the United States. So can I see this coming to pass here in the United States? Yes, unless people like this in this room decide they don't want that, and they talk with their legislators, and they meet, because that is one very, very critical piece of the United States system, is our lawmakers, they do listen to their constituents. In fact, a person who shows up to D.C. represents thousands. They have these stats. I don't know if you guys have ever looked at it. You know, a person who shows up is worth this many thousands. If you make a phone call, it's worth about 1,000. If you write a letter, it's a couple hundred you represent, because they look at all the people and how many people would have actually gone and done this if they could have. So the best thing you can do, visit with them. Now, for myself, I would fight hard against this, right? Because property rights and the ability to better not only for yourself but your family, these are some of our base tenets of the United States of America. And so that ability to get in and do that, we want to protect property rights. Because at some point in time, if they tell us we can't do X because you're bad, and then they're going to say something else you can't do and else can't do, right? And then eventually there's nobody left to do anything. You look at California right now, solar power. Remember, what were they saying? Get solar panels, save on your energy costs. It's great. But did you know your electricity, a portion of that goes to your city taxes, a portion goes to your county taxes, a portion goes to your state taxes? Guess what they're doing in California right now? They're going to charge you a tax to have solar panels because of all the money they're now missing out on. Okay? So there's always these unintended consequences that politicians like to talk about. So does it sound good to ban people from coming in and taking homes from hardworking Americans? That's a great news piece, right? But there has to be balance. There has to be a way for us to continue to thrive, because anytime you put the brake on the economy, don't forget, the real estate industry represents 1/5 of the United States economy. Let that strike home. If we push the brakes on 1/5 of the economy in the United States, what does it do to the rest of the economy? Look at the Great Recession and you'll see exactly what it does. And so we have to find a solution that's positive. And yes, I believe our legislators are going to try to emulate what's happened in Canada and prevent what happened in New Zealand, but it has to be done responsibly so it doesn't prevent people from being able to continue to experience the American dream. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes. I think this needs to be my final one before they take out that hook and,
No, you're okay,
and pull
you're
me
okay.
off the stage.
Historically, as interest rates have continued to rise and so on and so forth, that supply-demand shifts to some degree. How high do you think interest rates have to go before that tipping point goes the other direction? Or do you see that happening at all?
No, I actually do see that happening. It's like if you follow gold and silver, right? As
Right.
gold goes up, silver goes up, and we haven't found that balance yet. In my opinion, interest rates will be like gasoline, right? Last time gas rose, it rose to what, about $4? Remember that? $5 in California, and then people pulled back. They're finding right now that people aren't pulling back, and it's $6 in California and over $5 in Utah where I live, right? And we're not pulling back. So interest rates, I see that magic number around 7% because they're going to be talking with family. They're going to look at history and they're going to say, okay, I used to be able to have this, now it's this. But for the people in this room, for the people who are savvy with interest rates, they're going to realize that even though interest rates rose, that means my saving interest I'm making is rising. That means my 401k is rising. And so it's always the margin we need to be watching in between one and the other. But I will say that I believe that 7% mark is that mental in a person saying, maybe I should think twice. And that's also the point where you're spending tens of thousands of dollars more over the life of your loan, to where now that Alpine, Utah home at $1.5 million, people can't afford anymore because that's the extra couple thousand a month.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a great time at the conference.
Thank you.